Welcome back to the true crime portion of our channel, and there's no shortage of things to talk about. Tonight, we need to update you guys on a guy by the name of Ben Barber, and this guy has had a criminal history to him. Well, on Monday, a Wood County Sheriff's deputy happened to make a routine traffic stop for speeding, and he discovered that Ben Barber, who's 42 years old, he's going to turn 43 in April, had an active warrant. Basically, instead of complying, Ben Barber sped off. He refused to comply. Well, come to find out, the deputy that was in the high-speed pursuit of Ben Barber basically realized that there was a young child in the back seat and there was a teenager in the passenger seat. Now, I don't think the woman that Benjamin Barber is with was in this vehicle at this time, but he disregarded the flow of traffic, went against it, disregarded traffic signals, cut people off, and exceeded speeds of 120 miles an hour because he had an active warrant out for his arrest. So I looked up his criminal history, and I'm not sure on the year, but I think around maybe 2017, he had a strangulation charge on him. And I don't know exactly who it was. I'm going to go out on a limb and just assume maybe it was the woman that he lives with, but that person must not have shown up to court and it was dropped. Well, in 2020, Ben Barber had a capious warrant on him, and a capious warrant is just because you miss a court date, and I'm not sure if that stemmed from the strangulation charge or what happened. You don't get the strangulation charge dropped by you personally missing the court date. It's either the other person doesn't appear or basically the judge would dismiss it. But usually it's because the other person didn't appear. So whatever active warrant this guy had on him, it must have been bad because you're driving 120 plus miles an hour, cutting people off, going through red lights, disregarding traffic signals, with two kids in the car. Yeah, it had to be something pretty bad. Well, he knew what he was doing. He crossed state lines and he went over into Ohio. And being as close as we are to the Ohio state line, sometimes your police force, they might not be fully prepared to or have enough time to reach out to the neighboring police jurisdiction to get them ready to receive this oncoming criminal. So basically, he was caught on Highway 339 just south of Vincent, Ohio, right north of, or just past, of a Culligan Water Station. And he parked at this trailer, and he was driving a 2019 white Dodge Caravan. Well, later that van was recovered, I'm assuming with the children still inside of it, by a towing company called Hillbilly Towing Company. But Barber escaped. And basically, he left on foot with his kids there. I mean, it takes a real sick guy to leave your kids in the vehicle. I'm assuming that's what happened anyway. And as he fled on foot in the woods. And I'm going to show you this wooded area. Well, farther out to the northwest of this woods, he went all the way through it, and there was this house that had a trail camera. And he happened to be discovered on that trail camera in this big path. And usually when you see a big path like that in a wooded area, I know from previous experience, it's from the county. They make a wide swath that has no trees in it for power lines and stuff. So I'm assuming that's where this trail camera was. Well, that was last night about 5 o'clock p.m. And it didn't look like he was running for his life. It looked like he was walking. So I don't know. Maybe the guy didn't have that much urgency to him at that particular moment, but it was still light out, so it had to have been around 5 o'clock. It couldn't have been any later than that because it gets dark right now about 5:15, 5:30. It might have even been a little bit before 5, but I think the traffic stop occurred about 3:40 or something like that, so somewhere in that time frame. But he's still at large, and we know one of the women in our crime chats, her daughter lives up there, and they had the choppers out last night looking for the guy, and they had a perimeter drawn off, probably with some, I don't know, caution tape or something, but they had to call the search off for the night, and they resumed it today. Well, they haven't found him yet, to my knowledge. He's still at loose and on the run, so you've got to be on the lookout for this guy, Benjamin Barber, 42 years old. He's got his hair pulled back, And we're going to show you the clothes that he was wearing, and he probably still has those same clothes on right now. My guess is he's probably looking for some kind of a shed or some kind of a remote abandoned building out there somewhere. Or maybe he's got his phone on him. I'm sure he does. And maybe he called to somebody to help him get away. I mean, these guys always know somebody who's willing to help them. So be safe out there. If you see him, call 911 or the sheriff's number. I'm going to post it for you at the end of this video. So this is where his vehicle was found at 4753 Ohio 339, and you can see the white Dodge Caravan out there. I'm assuming the kids were in it. I don't know. And we're going to show you the wooded area here where he left and fled on foot, and that was off of the next road on the left here. So you can see 295 Lane Road. That's just right up next. So you see the Culligan Water Station right there. That's a pretty big wooded area right there. Now, typically speaking, a big wooded area like that isn't generally owned by just one person, but if you look at the paths in there, you can see two wide swaths. You kind of see a faint one going all the way through, maybe where an old creek bed used to be, possibly, and the one right up by that residence at 295 Lane Road. That's probably where he was caught on trail camera right there, is what I'm guessing. Now, you have to understand, they had choppers out and everything, and the trees don't offer a lot of protection because they're very bare this time of year. There aren't that many evergreen trees around here. So from a bird's eye view, you should be able to see somebody moving around. There are only so many places this guy could have fled on foot for that night. He apparently didn't have anybody pick him up right away because he was found on that trail camera all the way through that wooded area. So I got to looking for abandoned buildings, little storage sheds, something along those lines, and I didn't really see much of anything. Here you see him wearing a gray sweatshirt, looks like a blue hat backwards, black pants. I'm guessing this was around 5. There's still daylight, but not a lot left. But it's not that dark here either. So unless this was like on night vision, I didn't think about that. So you have to understand, he's had a strangulation charge before. We don't know what the last warrant was. I consider him to be a dangerous man. I'm not saying he's necessarily committed murder or anything like that, but we don't know. It could have been. And if you're willing to endanger your kids at driving 120 miles an hour, he's capable of anything.